What I'm about to tell you is a true mystery story about a mass murder that has never been solved until tonight. July 8th, 1965, Canadian Pacific Airlines Flight 21 is scheduled to leave Vancouver Airport at 4 p.m. with 46 passengers and 6 crew on board. Its destination is Prince George, followed by stops in Fort St. John, Watson Lake, Dawson Creek, and finishing in Whitehorse. The aircraft is a McDonnell Douglas DC-6B, a 4-engine, propeller-driven workhorse of the pre-jet airline business. At 4:40, while in flight, the captain makes a routine transmission to air traffic control. 10 minutes later, he makes this transmission. Mayday, mayday, mayday. CP-21 goes off the radar. In Ashcroft, forestry workers hear something loud and low overhead and look up to see CP-21 with a cloud of white smoke coming from its tail. They later describe it as looking like a parachute had opened, and behind the parachute, a trail of debris. That would later prove to be the bodies of 9 passengers blown out the back of CP-21. A crash site is found outside 100 Mile House, and there's no survivors. It's devastation. But almost immediately, some odd things are noticed. The propellers of CP-21 are not bent, meaning they'd stop turning while still in flight. But more importantly, the whole crash site has the smell and residue of potassium nitrate, the key ingredient in gunpowder. It is quickly determined that CP-21 has been brought down by an explosion on board in the left aft lavatory. An explosion from a bomb. But why? Who would put a bomb on this plane? The passenger list is examined for clues, and as in any disaster, there is tragedy. Amongst the passengers, a young couple going up to Prince George to shop for a home to raise their 4 daughters, now 4 orphans. Also on board, a woman returning home from having just attended the funeral of her nephew who himself had died in a plane crash, and another woman going up to Prince George to attend the funeral of her cousin who had died that day before in an industrial accident. And on board, a World War I veteran in Vancouver Hospital being treated for varicose veins who checked himself out early because he just wanted to go home. But also amongst the passengers were 4 passengers considered persons of interest. Person number 1, a man with a past. He was going up to Prince George to work, but he'd once been charged with murder. Person number 2, a man with a means. He too was going up to Prince George to work a job. His profession, explosives man. He was a dynamiter. Person number 3, a man with a motive. He claimed to be going up to Prince George to work a job, although no one up there had ever heard of him. He was a gambler. He was in debt with a wife and child at home, and prior to the flight, he bought insurance policy for $125,000. Person number 4, a targeted victim. He was an accountant who had been involved in exposing a massive fraud scheme in Ontario that was connected to persons connected to organized crime, and he was scheduled to testify about it before a judicial inquiry. In November 1965, a coroner's inquest determined that while CP-21 was brought down by an explosion from a bomb on board, they could not determine a motive nor identify a suspect. But like I said, until now, because I've done extensive research on this story, and I believe I found a motive and I believe I have a suspect. And I'm going to tell you that. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you about two pieces of overlooked evidence that have led me to my conclusions. But before I do either one of those two things, I need each and every one of you here, all of you, to vote for me. And then I'll come back and